He did everything right, carried the weight, kept the peace, and one day he couldn't feel his own life anymore. I used to believe that silence was a sign of dignity, that if you kept your mouth shut, people would respect you more, that if you didn't complain, they'd see your strength. It took me over 50 years to realize silence is a beautiful disguise for pain and a perfect shelter for self-erasure. You don't feel it right away. It starts small. One moment you choose not to speak your mind, just to keep the peace. Another day you swallow your needs because someone else's seem more urgent. Later, you skip asking for help, not because you don't need it, but because you're too proud to seem weak. And suddenly, years pass like that. You're still standing, but no one really sees you, because you train the world to look past you. This isn't about being shy. It's about being conditioned to disappear. They call it maturity. I call it quiet self-destruction. I didn't raise my voice when I was overlooked. I didn't defend my boundaries when they were crossed. I didn't say, enough, when love turned into duty and connection turned into performance. I just kept showing up, being reliable, being good, being silent. And the more I gave, the less I existed. No one takes from you what you don't offer, but the world quickly learns how to live without your truth when you keep it locked inside. The danger of this first mistake is that it feels like virtue, being the one who lets things go, who doesn't need much, who understands. It sounds noble, but it's a slow burial, with you doing the digging. Every time you stay quiet instead of being honest, you train the people around you to believe your silence means agreement, that your smile means you're fine, that your strength means you're unbreakable. And one day, when you finally break, they'll look at you like you betrayed them, because your pain doesn't fit the image they got used to. And still, you stay quiet, not because you want to, but because it feels too late to change the story. What nobody tells you is this: you don't lose people when you speak your truth. You lose the illusion that they ever truly saw you. That illusion can feel like safety, but it's a cage with velvet walls. The first mistake that quietly ruins your life after 50 isn't something loud or dramatic. It's the belief that silence protects you. That strength means carrying it all alone. That love means never needing too much. Truth is, silence might keep the peace, but it kills the connection. They can't love the real you if you never let them meet her. The longer you stay silent, the more you teach the world that your voice doesn't matter. Silence looks strong until you realize you've disappeared inside it. You might think silence is your quiet strength, but the second mistake, it's what you do after they stop hearing you, and that one costs even more. There's a lie that crawls under your skin so slowly you don't even notice it's there until your whole life belongs to it. It starts with small, polite choices. You nod instead of disagreeing. You accept instead of questioning. You adjust. You adapt. You shrink just a little, just enough to fit the shape of someone else's expectations, and the world applauds you for it. They call you generous, supportive, selfless. What they don't call you is you. You become the version of yourself that fits best into their story. A spouse that doesn't make a scene, a friend who always listens but never speaks, a colleague who doesn't ask for credit, a parent who forgets they're a person first. And the worst part? You do it all with grace, with a smile, with excellence, because the second mistake that quietly destroys your life after 50 is becoming excellent at being who you are not. I lived many years being what others needed. I was dependable, respected, even admired. But when I finally had time to sit with myself, the silence was unbearable. Not because it was empty, but because it was honest. I didn't know what I actually liked, what I actually wanted, what my own voice even sounded like anymore. You can decorate a cage until it looks like a home. It's easy to confuse being needed with being loved, to believe that if people rely on you, it means they value you. But what they often value is what you do for them, not who you are when you stop performing. You don't wake up one day and realize you're living the wrong life. You realize it after the 100th quiet compromise, the 1,000th unspoken resentment, the millionth time you tell yourself it's not a big deal. And then one day, the mirror doesn't recognize you. And worse, you don't miss who you used to be, because you buried her so deep she stopped knocking. After 50, your time becomes more precious than your money. You feel it in your bones. And that's when this mistake cuts the deepest. Not because you're lost, but because you were never truly found. You spent decades building a life, but was it yours? You raised children who never learned what it looks like to see their mother stand in her truth. You built a marriage where keeping peace meant abandoning your voice. You climbed career ladders that leaned against the wrong wall, and all of it looked so good from the outside. This mistake doesn't look like failure. It looks like success. That's why it's so hard to walk away from. But I'll tell you what no one told me. Being admired for the life you hate is worse than being alone in the one you love. Because at least when you're alone, you're honest. And in honesty, there is still the seed of hope. You don't owe the world a perfect image. You owe yourself a real life. When you forget who you are to please others, don't be surprised when they forget you too. A beautiful prison is still a prison, especially if you decorated it yourself. The third mistake comes later. It waits until you've lost enough time to finally want it back, and then it hits where it hurts the most, in what you thought was love. If any part of this story felt too real, you're not alone. These mistakes don't scream, they whisper, and they cost us years before we even notice. Tell me in the comments, which part hit you the hardest? Your voice might be the one someone else needs to hear today. And if you want more stories like this, about the quiet truths we all carry after 50, hit subscribe. Not to follow me, but to follow yourself back. They say love is patient, love is kind, that love endures. But what they don't say is that sometimes what we call love is just fear dressed in loyalty, guilt pretending to be care, habit coated in sacrifice, and the longer you carry it, the more it starts to feel like truth. The third mistake? It's not about being too soft or too trusting. It's about giving your whole heart to something that only takes, and naming that love. I've seen women stay in relationships where they weren't seen, heard, or cherished, not because they were weak, but because they'd been taught that staying meant loving harder, that endurance was a virtue, that if they just gave a little more, one day the other person would finally give back. No one tells you that sometimes the person you love doesn't love you back. They just love how you make them feel. They love your presence, your effort, your silence, your service. But you, your soul, your truth, your actual needs, that part never quite makes it into the equation. You don't recognize this mistake at first because love isn't always cruel. Sometimes it's warm, familiar, predictable. But deep down, you feel the ache. You feel the loneliness that shouldn't exist next to someone else's body. You feel yourself folding in half just to keep the illusion alive. And worst of all, you defend it. You tell yourself they're just tired, that they mean well, that it's not as bad as what others go through. You protect the idea of love instead of protecting yourself. I once asked a woman I respected, someone who looked like she had it all, why she stayed in a marriage that clearly drained the life out of her. You know what she said? It's too late to start over, and at least I'm not alone. But she was alone, entirely, emotionally, spiritually. She just wasn't physically by herself. And somewhere along the way, we taught ourselves to accept that as enough, as if presence was the same as partnership. Love is not the absence of pain, but it is the presence of truth. And where there is no truth, only silence, appeasement, or guilt, there is no love. There is attachment, fear, routine, convenience, but not love. After 50, this mistake cuts even deeper, because you've already given so many years, and walking away feels like betrayal of your own history. You ask yourself, what if I wasted it all? But the real waste is using the rest of your life to defend the first part of it. We think we're too old to start again, but we're actually too old to keep pretending. There's no shame in wanting to be loved, but there's deep harm in accepting anything as love, just to avoid the grief of leaving. That's not connection. That's a quiet erasure of your soul. You don't need someone who completes you. You need someone who sees you. If you have to shrink to stay, it's not love. It's survival. And you deserve more than just surviving. It's not brave to stay where your heart is starving. It's familiar. Love without truth is just a performance with better lighting. You didn't come this far in life just to be tolerated by the person you call home. There's a moment that comes quietly, not with drama, not with disaster, but with stillness. You sit on the edge of your bed or stand in your kitchen late at night, and suddenly you feel it, the weight of your own absence. You're there, physically, but everything that once made you you faded somewhere along the way. No one notices this loss at first. You keep doing the things, cooking, working, checking in on others, showing up with your polite smile. The world sees you functioning, but you feel like a ghost inside your own skin. That's not depression. That's not weakness. That's what happens when you've spent too many years serving everyone but yourself. You were taught to give, and you gave well. You were taught to be strong, and you carried more than anyone ever knew. But no one teaches you how to return to yourself after a lifetime of disappearing piece by piece. And that's the part they never tell you. The cost of those 3 mistakes isn't measured in broken relationships or missed dreams. It's measured in how far you drift from your own truth until your own reflection feels like a stranger. I've met women who didn't recognize their own laughter anymore. Women who couldn't name one thing they wanted, truly wanted, because they'd spent decades wanting for others. Women who stayed so loyal to duty and obligation, they forgot what desire even felt like. They weren't weak, they were noble, and that nobility became their burden. We admire selflessness, but we forget that a selfless woman is, by definition, a woman without a self. And you can't live without a self, not really. You can function, you can endure, but you cannot feel alive. At some point, surviving becomes a habit, and healing feels foreign, even suspicious. You start to mistrust joy, to doubt your own needs, to silence every impulse that sounds like rebellion. But here's what I've learned, painfully and fully. Healing isn't selfish, it's sacred. Returning to yourself isn't betrayal, it's coming home. And joy? Real joy? That's not a luxury for the young or the lucky. It's oxygen, You just forgot how to breathe. After 50, your body starts whispering truths your mind has long buried. Fatigue that isn't physical. A heaviness that sleep doesn't cure. It's your soul knocking, asking to be let back in. This part of life, the so-called second half, is not about reinvention. It's about reclamation. You don't need to become someone new. You need to stop apologizing for who you were before the world told you to be smaller. Let them adjust to your volume. Let them be uncomfortable with your truth. Let them watch you return to your life, even if they liked you better when you were silent. Because no one else will rescue you from the life you built while ignoring your own heart. That's your work now, and it's not too late. You don't need permission to be whole again. A quiet life isn't always a peaceful one. Sometimes it's just a forgotten one. Joy doesn't ask if you've earned it. It only asks if you're ready to feel it. There's a strange kind of grief no one talks about. It doesn't come when someone dies. It comes when you realize how much of yourself you lost. Slowly, politely, without a scene. Not because someone took it, but because you kept giving it away in pieces, believing that was the cost of love, family, success, peace. You gave your time to people who forgot to thank you. You gave your energy to relationships that fed on your silence. You gave your loyalty to systems that didn't even notice you. And now, you sit with this ache that no one else can feel and wonder how to explain it without sounding ungrateful. Here's the truth. You're not ungrateful. You're awake. And waking up this late hurts. No one prepares you for what it feels like to grieve your own life while you're still alive. To look back and see all the versions of yourself you abandoned to keep things together. The vibrant parts, the wild parts, the loud, inconvenient, joyful, demanding, alive parts. But there's something even harder to accept. This moment. It doesn't come back. There is no refund for the decades you gave away. There's no reset button, no second take. And if you're not careful, you'll waste this moment too, grieving instead of living, regretting instead of reaching, explaining instead of choosing. The clock doesn't care how good your reasons were, it just keeps ticking. You don't owe the past anything anymore. You don't have to defend your pain or justify your silence. What matters now is not what you lost, but what you're still willing to claim. Most people think transformation is loud, dramatic, a grand decision. It's not. It's subtle. It's the moment you say no without apologizing, the first time you laugh without checking who's watching, the quiet morning you choose to do something just for you, and don't feel guilty about it. It's deciding, at 53 or 67 or 74, that your life isn't over. It's just been waiting for you to show up. That's the raw, uncomfortable gift of this chapter. It demands your honesty, and once you start being honest, you can't go back to small talk, fake smiles, or waiting for permission. You start asking different questions. Not, am I too old to start again? But, am I still willing to abandon myself for one more year? Not, will they be disappointed if I change? But, what will it cost me if I don't? Most people won't understand your shift. They liked you better when you were manageable, predictable, soft-spoken. But the truth is, that version of you wasn't fully alive. She was polite, she was tired, she was fading. Now, you're dangerous in the best way, not because you hurt anyone, but because you finally remembered you matter. You don't get to choose your past, but you get to stop carrying it. Some people won't recognize you when you stop shrinking. Let them be confused. This moment doesn't come back, but it's still yours if you take it. There comes a silence that's not lonely. It doesn't echo. It doesn't ache. It feels honest, like the world stopped asking you to perform, like you finally stopped asking yourself to be anything but real. That silence, it's not given. You earn it the hard way, through the burned-out days, through the years of being who they needed, through the quiet resentments you swallowed like pills, through every time you chose peace at the cost of yourself. But when it comes, when it finally comes, it's not emptiness, it's space. And for the first time, you have room to stand fully upright in your own life. This isn't about starting over. That phrase sounds romantic, but it's a fantasy. You don't start over after 50. You continue without lies. You continue without pleasing, without shrinking, without waiting for someone else to decide that your story still matters. And yes, people will fall away. Some will leave because they only loved the version of you that stayed quiet, that never said no, that always gave more than she asked for. Let them go. Their absence is not a failure. It's proof that your presence has changed. You don't need the entire world to see you, just enough space to see yourself. Some days, this new life will feel unfamiliar. You'll question your right to peace, to rest, to joy that's not earned by pain. Don't listen to the guilt. Guilt is not a guide. It's a ghost of the woman you used to be, the one who begged for scraps and called it gratitude. This is your life now, and not the second half, the real one. The part where you don't apologize for wanting more, where you don't explain your worth, where your time becomes holy and your boundaries are not open for debate. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you distant. Let them. You didn't come this far just to be close to people who can't sit in your truth. You came this far to become, and becoming isn't loud. It's not glamorous. It's quiet like a woman walking out of a room she's outgrown without slamming the door. It's sacred like refusing to perform in spaces that feed on your shame. It's powerful like waking up one day and realizing no one else is coming. And yet, you're not afraid, because now you know. Peace isn't something they give you when you've earned enough. It's what you choose when you finally stop betraying yourself. You didn't waste your life. You just needed this long to come home to it. The moment you stop performing is the moment you start living. This isn't a victory speech. It's a moment of stillness. No applause, no spotlight. Just you, sitting with the woman who made it. And for once, she doesn't need to be more. She just needs to be.